SiriusXM keeps truck drivers informed and entertained with coast-to-coast coverage across the U.S. and Canada. Listen to what you love from anywhere on the road with 24/7 ad-free music plus sports, news, talk, and comedy. Hear your favorites on every haul for just $6.06 a month. Sign up at SiriusXMFleet.com. Welcome to The Long Haul, the podcast dedicated to empowering small carriers and owner-operators to drive their business forward. I'm your host, Adam Wingfield, bringing you insights from industry leaders, real-world success stories, and strategies to help you navigate the road to profitability. Whether you're just getting started or looking to take your fleet to the next level, this is the show where trucking meets opportunity. So buckle up, it's time to go the distance. Welcome back to The Long Haul, the show where we go beyond the headlines and get into real stories, real strategies, and real lessons from the real people that are moving this industry forward. I'm your host, Adam Wingfield, and whether you're behind the wheel, in the office, or just trying to figure out what your next move in this business, this podcast is built specifically for you. This episode is powered by our partners at SiriusXM, the platform that keeps carriers connected, informed, and entertained, whether you're running solo or managing a growing fleet. We appreciate their support in bringing these conversations to life. Today's guest is someone that you're going to want to pay particularly close attention to just because of what they're doing and the disruption that they're making when it comes down to being much more profitable. We want to make sure that you take a real good listen to this one. So let's really dig into it as we take you through it. I want you to hear it, apply it, and run your business like you got something to protect. So without further ado, I want to introduce you all to today's guests, Carlos and Gino of efRouting. Welcome to the show, guys.
Hey,
thank you.
Thank you for having us. Yeah, happy to be here.
It was good to run into you guys down at the Broker Carrier Summit, which is a huge event when it comes down to bringing brokers, carriers together, and really trying to fix that back and forth. Carlos, I want to start with you. You describe yourself as a scientist with a trucker's heart. Let's start there.
Yeah.
How did your grandfather's experience as a carrier shape the work that you're doing today?
Well, I have to say, I spent a lot of time with my grandpa trying to fix the truck, dealing with the day-by-day operation. He was in the industry for all his life. He basically put that DNA on me, but he didn't want me to be part of the industry. He said, I want you to go to a school and do something different. And then I did that. I went out to school. I did engineering. Then I moved to California. And then I did a PhD in civil and environmental engineering. And I was working for more than 10 years as a scientist, specifically working in logistics and optimization. And then at the end of the day, I just felt that call and I went back to the industry. So I didn't retire from my scientific career. I just now very focused in applying science in trucking to help carriers.
So your grandfather, he was in trucking all his life. So you grew up around, being around trucks and things of that nature. That you mean to tell me that smell of diesel didn't want you to just get behind the wheel of a truck and drive?
Kind of thing. I really love it to be around him, just like cover loop and fixing the truck with him and dealing with the drivers, and I had a really good time doing that.
So you went got your PhD, and science was your thing. You became a scientist when it came down to it. What really burns you to come back to, I think I want to go back to this trucking things because there's more significant problems. You were making a great salary as a scientist, didn't have to kind of go back. But what made you decide hey, let me back up and let me go back to this trucking thing?
Oh yeah, for sure. This is not for the money. I'm gonna tell you what happened in that moment. I was working in different projects with the government of California. We were trying to make electric trucks profitable. So we were trying to find different strategies to make these trucks to run, make a profit, and go back to the operating center. But they have a problem, which is the limited range they have. They cannot run that far, and then charging those batteries it takes at least 90 minutes to get like 80% of the capacity of the battery. So it was a real challenge. So during that process, I was in touch with a lot of carriers. And then in one particular call, it really changed everything. It was this call from a driver from Miami. And the guy was at that moment in Los Angeles. When we had that conversation, we were supposed to talk about something specific about the project, and he just wanted to talk. So he told me, look, I just got a call from my wife. My kids are misbehaving, and I really want to go back home. I left home a week ago. I'm in Los Angeles, and I told her that I'm going to be back there at the end of the week. But it's not true, because my next load is going to Seattle. So I won't be in Miami in the next month. That's the truth. I wish I could have a better work-life balance. I wish I could go home more often, but I cannot. And then that was the end of the conversation. Honestly, after that, it was not much to talk with this guy. And then I was thinking, like, I think we have in science, in particular, in the work that I was doing, something that can help these people. And obviously, I identify with the industry because of my background with my grandpa. Then after I was done with my PhD and all those projects, then I start building what is efRouting today, a solution not only to make more profit per mile for carriers, but also to improve the quality of life for people, to make a balance. That's what it is.
So the driver called you and was like, listen, I'm trying to get home and I'm going to Seattle. And then something triggered in you at that point to say, you know what? Instead of me just trying to, integrate just with that driver, you said that I want to create a solution that's industry based to say, you know what, we're going to fix the profitability issue. Is that what really kind of spurred that?
Yeah, well, that's one part, right? Profit. Because so what I understood early when I started this conversation with, not only with him, but with others, is we cannot go back home if we don't have enough money in our pocket to pay for our bills.
Yeah.
Pay for education, for food, for the truck, etc. So my question in that moment was how I can make a truck to go out of the market, to go out of home, make a trip, get enough money, and then go back home in a decent number of days. So at that moment, my numbers were, these guys are spending on the road between 5 to 6 weeks. So they don't see their family for a long time. So, okay, can we make it that they go just in 2 weeks or 3 or maybe 1 week? And then we found out a way, we designed a way to actually make this possible, right? Depending on the features of the truck, depending on the location of the truck, and other features. But that was the main focus there. So how we make this operation profitable, but also human-friendly, driver-friendly. And that was the really root.
And Gino, you got into this industry. Why? What was the why behind that? Why did you decide that, hey, you know what, I'm gonna partner up with my guy Carlos and I believe in what he's doing?
Yeah, I mean, it goes way back between Carlos and I. We both got to the University of California at the same time to study different things. And it was a scramble to find housing. So we ended up signing a lease together with a couple other people, became roommates, became best friends. I was studying winemaking, and then I went into that industry and was making wine for about 5 years. And honestly, I was starting to get a little burnt out on it. And I realized that the people around me had a lot more passion for winemaking than I did. And I just started to feel like, there's other things out there that I am interested in. And right around that time, Carlos and our friend Joaquin started efRouting. And I would, be hanging out with these guys on the weekend, and they were just talking about the problem. And I started to realize that this industry is so similar to the industry that I grew up in, which is contracting for construction. My family had a drywall contracting business the whole time I grew up. So that's what I knew. And when they were talking about it, I was like, oh, I know this. This makes total sense. You got to handle your different customers. You got to make the contracts happen. You got to stay profitable. It was all totally made sense. And it just all started to click. I was like, I really want to be a part of this. So that's when I jumped on board and haven't looked back. So,
and then I have to say that, so Gino in particular is one of these persons that have a huge sense of empathy. And in this industry, empathy is needed.
100%.
So it was a perfect fit to join the team. And since then, we have been best friends for a long time. And now we are also partners in this.
And I think that you mentioned empathy, and one of the things that, when it comes down to cost, that's one of the most, it is one of the most frustrating things for an owner operator and a carrier is the continuous amount of cost, the cost structure, the thin margins that they see on their behalf. So when solutions are put in place, it's important to identify what those costs are going to be, what the return on investment is going to be. So you hear a lot of carriers, they hear data-driven. Data-driven is a term that's used by larger carriers, mega carriers use data to do everything, whether it's maintenance, whether it's planning fuel stops. And immediately you think it's just for big fleets. Can you break down how data and routing science, because efRouting has created an ecosystem of routing science to be able to help make smarter decisions. So I want you to break down how data and routing science actually help small carriers win.
Okay, that's a really good question. I'm going to simplify in one thing, which is making better decisions. It's all about making better decisions. So the spot market is a fragmented market. It's really hard to make decisions because you don't have all the information that you need together. So you have to collect that information, put it together, process it. And then after you process that, you can find in the way that we like to see it, two things. You want to know what are the good opportunities, and you also want to know the places that are not good for you, even if they look good. And when I say that it's very common that sometimes we send truckers or dispatchers send trucks to places where it's very easy to get in, right? Because it is an appealing rate. But then when you're trying to get out, you realize that wasn't a bad idea. Because either the loads that are leaving that place are paying bad, or there is no load, so you have to move empty, right? Those are the places you want to avoid. But honestly, if you are in the day trying to dispatch a truck, you have called 50 different brokers, you are not getting loaded, and all of a sudden there is a really good rate here, you're going to take it, right? This is how complex is this operation, right? Now, we can flip the coin a little bit and see, well, maybe I'm sending the truck to the wrong place. I'm not going to make that money, all the money that I was expecting to make it in one lane. But if I combine this good lane with this other good lane, now I have a round trip that is making sense.
Yeah.
Right. And we are very focused on that, helping truckers to find those really good places. It's not only about running one lane, it's about running multiple lanes that are good, right? Gino can explain a little bit more about that because it's very common and he deals with this every single day. So, go ahead.
No, I mean, I think you pretty much summed it up in terms of data for an owner operator. The spot market, there's a lot of data. There's people analyzing it and putting out rate information, but there's not a lot of places an owner operator can go to just say, tell me where I need to go. Tell me which loads I need to take, and that's what we do.
There is something that happens very often with these guys is when we are on the phone with them, interacting with them, they say, oh, I have been running the same lane for 10 years. And I realize that now it's not working anymore. I say, well, yeah, because the market is changing all the time. But when you are not exploring the market, there are actually many other good lanes out there, but you don't know that they exist. Because having that visibility is very hard. And that was the first problem that we wanted to solve, make that visible. And so you say, this is, I will say, a privilege for large companies, but what about for the small carrier? So first of all, we want to give them that information, but also we want to give that information in a very simple way, in a way that anybody can understand it. Because that's the fair thing to do. That's giving somebody the tool to really do a better job. That's how data is related.
So let's talk a little bit about deadhead. You mentioned that just a few minutes ago. Like, hey, typically a dispatcher or owner operator that may not know, may be new to routing themselves, may put their truck into an area where it looks good going in. It's like a pot of gold. It looks good going in, but then coming out, we talk about the Miami, Floridas of the world or the Maines of the world. When you go into these areas, you're going into them really, really hot. But when you're struggling to come out of them, it's a decision that you start questioning yourself about. You said before that chasing a high paying load isn't always a smart play. Can you walk us through a real world example where a great rate turned out into a bad decision, but because of the routing system that you guys have, it said it corrected that for them?
Yeah, I think we were just looking at an example actually. So, and you were just mentioning the Miami. So, we have a customer who ran a route out of Indianapolis, and we did a side by side. So, one dispatcher just did what they've been doing, and another dispatcher followed our route plan. So, the first dispatcher left Indianapolis, sent the truck to Miami because they got a rate better than they've ever gotten to Miami. They thought, you know what? We're making so much profit on this. It doesn't matter. We know we're going to lose money getting out of Miami, but I'm sure we're going to make money in the long run on this route. They sent the truck to Miami, great rate. Then the truck sat in Miami for 2 days before it got loaded out with a terrible rate. So not only was it not making money just by the rate, it also lost money by the 2 days they paid the driver to sit there. Took it from Miami back to Georgia. I think it went up to Cincinnati, and then Cincinnati back to Indianapolis. Total mileage and total rate per mile ended up being like right over break even for them, like $235 per mile, including the day. The other dispatcher used our route plan and went from Indianapolis to Georgia, and then stayed in the Southeast, went South Carolina. I think their last 2 loads were up to Pennsylvania and back to Indianapolis. Really similar total mileage, but because of the lack of deadhead, because they weren't waiting and they were just getting into a city, out of a city loaded, even though the rate per miles per each load might not have been as high, their total rate per mile was $265. So that's an extra, 20, 30 cents per mile.
Exactly.
That's profit for them on that route. And that's what our system does. It says, hey, going to Atlanta instead of Miami, it's less total revenue. So your dispatcher might not think it's as good because maybe they get a commission on total revenue, but It was the better decision because obviously going to Florida is a really risky move.
No, so that's a great point because like you're discussing like using tri-haul type mentalities or going in and adding additional stops to go ahead and improve that profitability side. So just in your customer base and just in your client base, what are some of the common mistakes you see owner operators that make when they're picking loads that could be avoided with using efRouting as an example?
I think one of the main mistakes that I observed day by day in this operation is having no plan. That's first. And second, just guiding all the decision of dispatch based on the rate per mile. We made a research like 2 years ago where we have 2 groups of carriers. So one carrier that was 84% of the cases, they were using just the rate per mile as a main decision point. And then and a smaller group that was 16% of the group, they were considering at least one more factor. And the factor was, okay, what is the rate per mile that is being paid at the destination that I'm going? And then the big surprise was when we saw the results that that small group, they have 42 cents more in profit than the group that was just considering the rate per mile. So actually, it really matters having a plan, really thinking about what's going to happen next is thinking at least one lane forward. And then another really interesting finding about that research was that the guys that were really planning for the road, they were 3 times less times stuck in places, right? So the other group was 3 times more stuck in places, right? So the main error is not looking at the market, it's not looking at the data. It's plan. That's the key word here, plan. right information in one hand and plan with that right information.
Mhm.
Man,
That's what it is.
that's a great call out. That's a great call out. And then, but when you look at, a lot of owner operators, small carriers, they operate on that load board, and whatever pops up for that day, whatever showcases, whatever that hot load is that day, it kind of, to your point, sometimes this information, since it is fragmented, the best information is not in the same place. So sometimes you make that decision where you'll go into an area that, the Midwest might be hot starting on Monday, but come Wednesday, it's been cooled out by then. And now I don't have a plan on where I'm going. I always thought about the strategy and always utilize the strategy is on Sunday. I'm planning my week. Now I might not be able to plan exactly the exact town and zip code that I'm delivering to, but I know that I'm going from, my market to the Indianapolis, Indiana market. It could be somewhere in Greenwood that I end up at, but it's going to be in that marketplace, but I'm going to be very strategic about that. So how does EF routing work behind the scenes? What is it looking at that a human dispatcher might miss out? What is it doing? What is it working on behind the scenes to make it to be as useful as it is?
Okay. Well, we have a large group of people in different areas working to make this happen. So we have a large group of data scientists that are just analyzing data all the time. We have another group of people that are working in the ATOL algorithm. That is, so explain a little bit better that we have a series of algorithms that are analyzing the market 24/7. They are grabbing information from different sources. Some of them are load boards, some of them are directly with brokers. We see fuel prices, weather conditions, etc. So that is putting all together that information, processing, and is creating these routes. Sometimes we don't need even to create a new route. What we do is we monitor that route. So we guarantee that that route is actually something that they can do, that they can complete. And we do this in different ways. So one way is just checking the number of loads that are available there, the features of those loads, but also looking at the operation of our current clients. So we see, okay, this route right here is on a route that has been completed 20 times in this week. Okay, great. So this is a route that we want to present to our customer and say, you can trust this route, you can try it. We usually try to design our routes in a way that if you miss one load, because whatever happened, and a lot of bad things happen in logistics all the time, you are late for any reason. Okay, still, this plan is robust enough that you can find another good load in that lane. But if for any reason you cannot even find one good load in that lane that we are proposing, the system is smart enough to tell you, okay, here there is a potential correction. So look, rather than going now from Houston to Chicago, you're going to go Houston to Indianapolis, and later you're going to connect with Chicago, because that's what the trends are. So we have I will say an army of algorithms that are doing this work, but also we have a group of scientists, developers. We have also marketing people. We have the people that, for me, is one of the most important things, is the people that are speaking with the carriers, like Gino. Gino is all the time in the phone. Sometimes it's not selling. It's just about learning. It's about listening what they have to say.
Yeah.
So in this, I have learned that sometimes all that you need to do for making one of these guys a better day is having a conversation. It is funny. Sometimes you call them because you want to offer something, and they end up selling to you because they start telling you all this story about how bad was that burger they had in this place. It's a real joy.
So you've done a lot of research, and you've got a lot of folks that are doing research and analytics for you in terms of that. So when you do that, and Gino, you just talked about a moment where you're like, hey, apples to apples, one carrier made 30 cents more on average by planning a little bit better. How far should these small carriers and owner operators should be planning in advance if they want to build consistency and profit into their business?
I mean, in terms of looking into the future, it's hard with the spot market to see too far into the future, but I would say most of our route plans, we are able to confidently predict up to 2 weeks. We can confidently say that if they leave on this day, and plan on doing this 2-week plan, it's going to happen. As long as
Wow.
not crazy things change in the market, the Baltimore Bridge collapses, things like that. You're going to see 2 weeks into the future is pretty predictable with the data that we analyze.
Wow. That's incredible because that at least provides, that, like you said, that stability. I know where I'm going. Like I said, I might not know exactly what city I'm going to or exactly what town, what warehouse dock I'm bumping to, but at least I know what area. But it's so important. And y'all hit on a huge point. It is so important to plan your areas and kind of have that route plan as you go in for all of your trucks when it boils down to it. So I think it's really, really important. You're launching a product called Powered by Truckers, which sounds like a community-driven data movement. Why do you think
Yep.
carriers should start pooling their insights, and how do you get them to trust a system like that?
That's a really good question. So we are doing this for the carriers. This is one of the few platforms out there that is designed for the benefit of the carrier. We spend a lot of time, resources, and effort in collecting data that help them to make better decisions. We want to change a little bit the way we are doing this. We want to do it by the power of the community. And they are doing an effort to make this community great, and we want to also honor that. So they send information to us about their experiences. For example, what is the experience they have with a broker or in a warehouse or the rate confirmation. We don't need to know all the details in the rate confirmation. What we need is legit information about a transaction that happened. That information is going to be used and processed for the benefit of the whole community. And because of that, they get a discount in our service. They get up to 60% discount in the cost of using this platform. So honestly, if in the future we find a way to offer this for free, I will do it because this is genuinely made for them.
Yeah.
We don't think there is a better way to take this project to the best that could be that empower our community. So they can start now looking at our rates, and they are experts. Somebody that have been running in this truck in this industry for at least 2-3 years, they will really know about this. So when they go to our platform, they will see the rates, they will see the routes, and they will realize that it really makes sense. We are 100% transparent. So when we don't have information about on a lane, we don't post it. We prefer to say we don't have the information because then we are going to mislead somebody to make a decision that is going to end up wrong. So we want to increase the number of data points that we have. We already process like 10 million of data points per day. But in this business, more, it means better.
It's better,
So
better data.
that's it. Yeah.
Yeah. You talking about data and, shifting a little bit about broker vetting. You guys are building a tool as well to help carriers avoid bad broker partnerships. How bad is that problem, from what you guys are seeing on your back end, and, how will this help level that playing field out?
Yeah, I mean, I would say the problem is pretty huge, especially on the load boards, just the amount of fraud that the legitimate carriers have to navigate through. One of the first things we did when we started trying to bring all of the loads together into one place was create a system that at least removes duplicate loads and tries to focus on removing loads that we identify as likely to be from a double broker. So that was the first thing, and that's when we really realized this problem with having to focus on some way of the carriers being able to identify when a broker is legitimate or not, and be able to share that information back with the community. We all know about freight guards and things, and brokers have a great multitude of tools to identify carriers and vet them. But I mean, carriers need to have confidence when they're booking a load that the broker they're booking with, owns that load and is legitimate. So we're trying to build that system where they have that same sort of wealth of knowledge that brokers have. So with that, I think it would, really balance out the playing field.
No, that's awesome. That's awesome. And then you're bringing this collectively within community, which I think is great. So, what excites you both most about the future of EF routing? I mean, how do you see it transforming small fleets, owner operators? Let's just talk about the next 12 months.
Okay. Um, we are in a really bad season right now. The rate per mile is going really down. And unfortunately, we believe that it's going to be like that for a long period. I want to see more people that were about to leave their business or they are really struggling, that thanks to EF routing, now they have a better operation. I want to have the opportunity to help as many people as I can. I want to speak with those small carriers that are really struggling and now to tell them, look, this is a tool that you need. Please use it. Let me help you to show you how I can put science and data at your service. And all that we want is to create this big community of people that are really taking advantage of this and make them happy. I already made this decision of changing my career, joining the industry, and I'm not doing this for money. This is more than a joy for me to do this. It's my sense of community for doing this. EF routing, what we have now, is just the beginning. We want to take this way forward. We want to make the job of these guys as simple as possible, as enjoyable as possible. So one day we are going to have a system that is able to book the whole plan, the whole week of operation for these guys with one click. That's where we want to go. We hope it's not going to happen that far in time. At the moment, in the short term, we are signing some partnership with different factoring companies that offer fair rates to our carriers. We are really invested now in a project called the Fuel Optimizer, where we are helping carriers to reduce the cost of operation, in particular, the cost of fuel, which is the biggest operative cost they have. I tell you something. So there are companies, the difference between the cost for gas they have in comparison with others, it could be even $1. That's not a huge difference. If we are able to reduce the cost of fuel in 30 cents per gallon, maybe that carrier that was going out of business, now it can keep in business because those 30 cents, it really matters here. This is a business of cents. 30 cents less, which is what we are observing in our system now, just by deciding better. It isn't a huge impact in their budget. So that project right now is going really well. We just launched an app for that. We are not committed only with a fuel card because people sometimes think about this. Oh, you are trying just to sell me on a fuel card. No, we have on a fuel card. But in fact, if you have a better discount than our fuel card, what we do is we connect your fuel card with our system. It's not about, because our end goal is not selling our fuel card. Our end goal is helping you, our business is helping you to reduce your fuel cost. Yeah. And we are doing that pretty good now. And we want to keep doing that. Even more in this really tight season. Rate is not improving, but you can reduce your cost.
Control what you can control. Control what you can control, right? Control your expenses, and those are the most important things that you can focus on. So when you talk about it, and just from you guys' perspective, and because you hear it, Gino, you're on a phone calling and talking every day. If there's one belief or mindset that small carriers need to shift today to thrive in the market, what is it?
I would say the main thing, which it's kind of counterintuitive to our data-driven decisions, which is relationships. I mean, you can focus all on the numbers, but at the end of the day, if the brokers that you're calling know you and you've worked with them before, you have a better chance of getting a better rate. You have a better chance of getting called on for loads that never go to the boards. I mean, we saw it at BCS. That's been a huge movement. That's really helpful for trying to change that mindset. But I would say the biggest shift change for carriers needs to be just trying to build some good relationships with brokers that they can rely on in these hard times, for sure.
Even in hard times or in good times too, because you build the
Yep.
relationships, and a lot of times during the good times, carriers forget about the relationships during those times because things are good, because you don't need anything at that point. Everything is
Right.
easy, everything is right here at your fingertips. But during the good times is when you really, really genuine build the relationships that take you through the hard times, because those are when those real relationships matter. You guys are building community right now. You guys got fuel optimizers out there that you're working through. You got routing. You're hitting all of those points that are points of contention when it comes down to being able to operate profitably. So I love the fact that we're doing that. Where can carriers follow your journey, try out efRouting, get involved in Powered by Trucking? Yeah, what can we find you guys?
Yeah, I mean we're out at a lot of the shows. We go to BCS. Obviously, go to our website efrouting.com. The social media on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, Twitter, all those. Contact me. My email is gino@efrouting.com. We can get on a call and talk about it. So.
Yeah, the Power by Carrier campaign is gonna be out there soon. But we are really people. We are just people that love to interact with people. So
Yeah.
Any of these carriers just want to call Gino, he can speak with Gino. They want to talk with me, they can speak with me. We love to do that, and we spend a lot of time during our day doing that. This isn't a company that is run by human beings. So
Yeah.
when you are in that fund, you are talking with somebody that really care about you. So that's how we want to keep it.
So, any final words for 1, 2, 10 truck operators that's on the edge of burning out and trying to stay in the game, that's maybe considering, hey, you know what? I'm about to hop on out of this journey. Any last words of advice, just based on what you guys are seeing on the back end, what you guys deal with every day?
Yeah, I would say don't give up, because even though we're in a bad season, we've been in a bad season, there are people just like you who are putting a plan together, making a profit on the loads they run, and they are growing their business. They're buying trucks. They're getting them at a discount because so many others are going out of business. So this is a really good opportunity for people that put a plan together and want to grow. It's the time to do it. So just make a plan and follow through. That's it.
For anybody that is listening to this podcast and they are in that struggle, please reach to us. We have different ways we can help them. It's very simple. If they have a bad contract for factoring, we help them to get a better contract, right? Somebody that really cares about that. If we analyze their fuel expenses, we are going to tell them if there is any good opportunity for them to reduce their costs. And we do whatever is needed for that. They need to get a different fuel card, or all that they need is better optimization of the stops. We do that. If they are not getting loaded enough because they have a lot of downtime, we help them with that. We give access to the platform, show them what is the best they can do, etc. There is always a way to help them. We have different ways. We are here, very happy to help them. So anybody that is listening to this, please reach to efRouting, and we guarantee we are going to find a way to help you make more profit per mile.
Man, that's awesome, man. Today, we learned so much in terms of smarter loads, stronger margins, making sure that you focus on controlling what you can control. We didn't talk about growing money that you didn't have. We talked about focusing more on being profitable on what you're operating with. So it was a pleasure being joined with Gino and Carlos of efRouting today to really kind of talk about the tool that they built that really focus exactly on just that, and that's controlling what we can control. And when you compound these things together and you focus on these things as foundational tools, you incrementally become better at what you do, and ultimately you'll be able to sustain yourself through times like the bad times. But then you'll also take these same principles and you'll duplicate them amongst yourselves. You'll duplicate them amongst the trucks as you grow. And those things, like Carlos talked about, this is a game of sense. It's truly a game of sense, CENTS, and it's truly a game of sense SENSE. So thank you so much, Carlos and Gino from efRouting, for joining us today. It was a pleasure meeting you guys and really seeing you guys' journey and really what you're wanting to do for owner operators out here. So thank you for joining us today on today's call, on today's episode with the Powered by SiriusXM Radio. Guys, we'll reach the end of another episode today. And what you learned today is most important is focusing on profitability and how important profitability is. And as you know, when it comes from me, I really focus heavily on the profitability so that way we can ensure that we're taking care of the money that's coming in. I hope you enjoyed this episode. And until next week, stay safe, stay profitable, and looking forward to seeing you again.